A community-centered literary event featuring local author Christine Blackwell and her newest work, Remarkable Women of Oakland County, Michigan, will be taking place at Schuler Books on Wednesday, April 22nd. Her book explores the lives and achievements of women who made significant contributions across business, education, arts, and philanthropy, and profiles both widely recognized figures and lesser-known trailblazers from the region. Here to tell us more is the author of Remarkable Women of Oakland County, Christine Blackwell. Christine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, really interesting book. Love that you're having an event at Schuler Books coming up soon. What inspired you to write this book and to showcase the stories of these women of Oakland County?
Two things. Quickly, I was invited to some birthday parties for prominent women who are now in their 90s. And at the parties, I thought, it's a shame their stories are being lost. So I thought, why don't I start recording these? And the other thing, I was teaching English part-time at Lawrence Tech, and I asked some of my students, who are your heroes besides your mothers? And it had to be women, and they couldn't name any. So I thought, I was teasing them. I said, I'm going to create some for you.
Yeah, help provide a lot of these examples of all of this greatness throughout Oakland County and the women who are responsible for it. That is amazing. Now, I mean, I'd imagine there were a lot of women to choose from for a book like this. How did you go about selecting the women featured in this book?
Well, I created 12 categories, and they range from the arts to the heavy sciences to business. And each of those categories became a chapter. And then I slotted the women into the chapters. And I have to tell you, we have women, plenty of women for every single category. A lot of high achieving women from Oakland County, you're right.
That's great. That just shows there's so much greatness in this community. Were there any stories that really surprised you or moved you during your research? I mean, we got to know some of the examples of what's in this story.
Yeah, I'll give you two. One is Nora Chapa Mendoza, who was a 2024 Kresge Eminent Artist and was awarded $100,000 for her body of work and to continue creating art. She was dedicated to being an artist, but she married a doctor, and he wanted her to only paint in the basement and only on the weekends. And she said, I'm sorry, it's like eating to me. I have to do art. And he said, no, that's not good. She divorced him to pursue her art. And then the second example I'm thinking of is Pamela Ann Eldred, who during the Vietnam War, she was cited for bravery during the war. She insisted on performing for the troops and entertaining them. So they had to evacuate, but she was part of that evacuation and received 2 citations from the American government. And so that's pretty interesting. There's a lot of interesting stories, actually.
Sounds like it. Both of those stories were very captivating. Great to hear of both of these women, and so many more available in this book. Christine, why is it important to highlight local history and figures rather than just nationally known stories?
Well, you'll recognize the locals. In most cases, you might not know all of them. Like some people, I think most people know, for example, Madonna came from Rochester Hills. But when you recognize what these locals have done, they're just like you and me. And they went ahead and pursued their passions, worked hard at it. They had a lot of setbacks, but they didn't give up on it. So that means you can do it too. You may not reach that highest level, but you'll get a little bit closer to what you want to achieve and be satisfied with your life. Anybody can do this sort of thing.
That's absolutely right. Everyday people can achieve greatness in any way possible. As long as they put their mind to it, they can accomplish something truly amazing. Now, Christine, I'd imagine that the research process for this book, I'm curious how long this project took to put this book together.
How long it took me to put together? I actually had a 6-month deadline. I had to ask for an extension of a month and a half, so it went into 8 months. But, you know, anytime you're doing a book, you start with the idea and the love of the idea, and you have to organize the information, do research, create an outline, create a proposal, and send those to the publishers. Look at what your competition is. There was nothing out on this topic of remarkable women in Oakland County. And so I decided to go ahead and pursue it because I thought it was important to recording the history once again.
And we are so happy you did. For those just joining us on the Splash Live, I'm talking with the author of Remarkable Women of Oakland County, Michigan, Christine Blackwell, talking about her brand new book and her upcoming event at Schuler Books on Wednesday, April 22nd. Now, with a lot of these stories, Christine, I'm curious, were there any themes or common threads that you noticed among the women that you profiled in this?
Yeah, I actually was searching for the secret sauce of success. I wanted to know what it was. I thought at first maybe it's because they went to college or they went to a certain college. Now some had, advanced education. Some did not even go to school at all. But what they had was a passion for a certain field, and they pursued that passion relentlessly. The doors closed many times on them. They went right back to that particular field.
Wow, that passion, I mean, that truly does go a long way into making your dreams come true. And I'm curious, how do you think that these women's stories resonate with today's generation that are reading them for the first time?
Well, when the vast majority of women came from modest backgrounds or middle class backgrounds, and when they saw an opportunity, the point is they took that opportunity. They may have failed at it, but they pursued it and then came right back. Dr. Bertha Van Hoosen, for example, she became one of the early doctors in Michigan, and her father wanted her to stay home on the farm. And he said, I'm not going to pay your tuition to go to University of Michigan. And she said, fine, I want to be a doctor. So she worked as a maid, worked at various modest jobs to achieve what she wanted to achieve. And she became a prominent doctor, actually known all over the United States.
That's amazing. So many incredible stories available in this book, and people are going to have the chance to talk with you in person and get to read your book at your upcoming event at Schuler Books on Wednesday, April 22nd. What can attendees expect from this event here in West Bloomfield?
First of all, I am going to introduce myself and the book and give them an overview. And then online, I had posted a question on, it's a sort of a tricky question, but just for fun, and I want to see who can answer it. I posted a music album, and I can't give you the name of it because that will help answer it, but I want to see which women can answer the question about that. And I'm also going to have artifacts from some of these women's lives that they can look at. An example is Louise Lathrop built the whole city, Lathrop Village, and I have her plans as artifacts. I'm going to have them displayed, and women can look at those.
Oh, that's perfect. So much for people to see, and it helps that you have those things available so people can really immerse themselves in these stories and understand what these women were going through and as they achieved their greatness here in Oakland County. Christine, last question before we wrap things up. Do you have plans to continue writing about local history or maybe similar topics in the future?
Well, I will be writing about local history. In fact, I've started another book, and it doesn't sound interesting right now, but I'm going to make it interesting. I grew up in apartment buildings, grand apartment buildings in the Detroit area. They're like castles. So I want to, explore that history and share it with other people. But for the time being, I tend to stay local because, that's an open category. There are plenty of openings for other women who care to write, to pursue all these topics.
And I can't wait for people to learn about these stories and to learn about these topics at this event. It's an incredible book. Can't wait for people to check it out. Christine, thank you so much for joining us today here on the Splash Live.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this interview.